Hello everyone, welcome back to Path for Cloud. So we will gonna discuss today Ingress controller. We have learned in the networking part like we have two types of traffic. One is ingress and another one is egress. But that is something for the traffic redirection we were talking about in that video. This is not that same ingress, right? Ingress controller is a kind of load balancer. It is a kind of load balancer which will kind of layer 7 load balancer, I would say. Why? Because it will redirect your traffic on the basis of URL. Let's say if your application is running, right, and if you are just trying to access your application, it will fetch your application. But if you go to the application, let's say contact, then might be that application is running in a different server or maybe different port. Then using this URL, it is smart enough to redirect your traffic. All right. So that is the way like we will see that what is the ingress controller. Ingress controller is nothing. Ingress controller is a kind of inbuilt load balancer which works as a layer 7 inside the load balancer, which will help you to redirect, right? Or maybe redirect your traffic towards internal multiple applications. I will show you and it will be more clear when we see in the demo. Okay, let's see what was the issue if we don't use a ingress controller. Okay, let's say I am using a application A. Okay, so far my application is good, right? I have only one page and that I am just hosting in the pod 1 and I have exposed it as a service 1 kind of node port, right? My application is running fine. I'm good. My users are also good. They can easily access my application because I have just provided this a node port IP and the port towards my maybe the DNS or externally you are managing that they can directly access to my application, let's say app.a.com. Fine, now it's good. Now let's say my application got popular and I need to add multiple pages on this, right? What I will do is I will just simply add a multiple page in my application and using the same URL my uh, users are accessing my application. So far, so good. But now the problem is, let's say you have this application is running and it has, let's say, different pages where you are managing, let's say, some courses list, maybe some you are managing some duration, videos, recording, or maybe you are just hosting your documentation, right? Each part you are hosting in a different pod, let's say, because we were following the microservices approach here, right? So now what happen is I have pod 2, I have pod 3, and so far I have, let's say, 10 pod I have total for my application. And indirectly I have configured my application in such a way that they can automatically they can interact with that, and on the using the main page I have that link to different pages of my application, right? Now the problem is I need to expose the service for each port. Then only my application can able to run it, right? And since I am accessing it from the outside, so obviously we need a external mechanism to access it, and that is something node port, right? Let's say if you are doing this node port for this one, right? Then there is a problem with this, right? Because what you need to do is you need to put one more load balancer or maybe some kind of mechanism so that whenever you are trying to access, let's say on the courses list, right? Maybe it is running on port 2 and you want to come here, then you need to put some kind of mechanism that that URL will get routed to this port and so that you will reach to port 2. Similarly, if you need to check the documentation, let's say that is running on pod 3, and somehow you need to redirect that pod traffic towards this port, and you can reach to port 3 to the documentation page, right? But it is very problematic thing, right? it is very kind of overhead to manage all these things. Let's say if tomorrow you need to create more application, or maybe you need to customize your current application, then it is very hard, right? If you are migrating that application and if you are hard coding all these ports and everything, then it is very, very hard to manage all these things, right? So in order to do that, what Ingress controller will tell, right? Ingress controller is nothing. Ingress controller is again a object inside the Kubernetes which we can create using a manifest file. I will show you how it looks like, but that is the only way we can achieve or we can overcome this problem, right? There are multiple solutions. Let me take you to my documentation. There are multiple solutions for the ingress, right? If you see that, it is redirecting the external traffic to internal multiple services and implement the SSL security as well. Yes, that's one more thing. If you have that SSL over certificate, right, then you can just drop that SSL certificate on this so that you can increase the performance of your application. Your application will no more deal with the SSL certificate, right? It can be encrypt and decrypt at the this layer. When we have the ingress controller implemented, we don't need to expose our service as a node port. We will uh, we will ex we will expose our services as a node cluster IP, right? Because that is the way. Only the one service will be exposed as a ingress controller service will as a node port. And using the same port, we will be able to n number of application inside the cluster which is running as a cluster IP service type, right? That we will see. And again, we can manage the authentication for the application, SSL loading, or for maybe that creating US URL based routing, right? That all can be done using this Ingress controller, and it acts as a layer 7 load balancer, right? Without Ingress, if you are doing right, what you need to do? You need to deploy all these solution. Maybe you need to deploy HA proxy, kind of reverse proxy thing you need to do, right? You can still do it as you can just expose that particular port as a node port, and then you can redirect your traffic towards your internal but that is again, it is a manual thing, right? You cannot do this without with ingress. All these things you need to do manually. But with Ingress, if you are deploying it as a Kubernetes object, all these things will be taken care by this Ingress controller. You don't need to do anything. You just need to deploy the Ingress controller, and then you need to define some host URL, and that will be done. Now you can access your application using that Ingress service type, which is a node port. All right, there are multiple solution for the ingress controller solution. You can see there is a ingress NGINX, there is a GC in ingress. This is called traffic, I believe. HA proxy ingress, NGINX plus, Istio, Contour, Kong, AWL, NGINX F5 version. But in the second column, you can see only and only these two are managed by the Kubernetes community, Kubernetes project, right? They are officially supported and the used widely, right? GCE is only supported in the GK environment, which means the Google Cloud. But for Ingress Nginx, you can deploy it in any environment, right? This is the official page for this. Let me copy and we'll see that how it looks, where they maintain the repo for this what you call. Okay, and this is the URL you can see, right? They are managing all these things. If you are interested how it works, maybe I will append this URL as well in the description of this video. You can explore from there, right? But now let's come back to our this documentation. Now what you need to do while in deploying a ingress, you need to follow some kind of this setting, right? Then only we will be able to do this. So what you need to do is you need to create this as a deployment, right? So that if you are changing something, then maybe you can have that at least 5 to 10 rollbacks you can keep for your configuration, right? Then build official image, because this image is already designed for this kind of work, kind of HA proxy like called NGINX, Ingress NGINX. Okay, so you need to follow this image only. That's what we were talking about. Here you can see as of now the current latest release is this one, and you can refer this image in your deployment if you want. Now that is done, right? Then you need to do some kind of you need to pass some environment variable just to, it is a requirement for this Nginx, right? When you are deploying this Nginx Ingress controller, it is a requirement to deploy these two environment pod name and pod namespace, because this is something it is required for the this one service where it is exactly running. You need some service account, and for that service account you need to have some role binding, cluster role and cluster binding, so that it can interact towards across cluster and create some resources, forwarding rules and everything, right? That we have to give the privilege to this Ingress service account so that it can do that job. And we need to create a service as a node port for the this particular deployment, so that every traffic will come to this, and internally it has a smart enough that mechanism which will forward to your particular service, right? Once that is ready, your Ingress controller is ready, then what you need to do is you need to create some host based rule, right? You can have multiple hosts inside a one Ingress resources, because what we are need to do is, let's say now you have that Ingress controller is ready, right? You have deployed this Ingress controller, you have exposed this as a service called NodePort, but what? Now we need to tell, right, to this Ingress controller, like when the traffic or the request comes to you, where do you need to forward, right? So for that, what we need to do is we need to create some Ingress resources. And there we will gonna define the host, and under host we need to define a path, right? Or maybe you can say the rules and path, so that it can based on that particular URL, right? Because that's what we are based. It has a capability to forward your traffic as a URL based routing. Then it should know, okay, if that particular URL is coming as a header in the request, then where do I need to follow the path? And under that path, you need to define that, okay, where that exactly path is like running, there comes our service, right? So that is the kind of syntax for your ingress resources. You need to define a host. That means that on which host you are doing. Host is nothing. Host is your URL where you are trying to connect. Then it should know, okay, if that URL is coming, then on which path I need to forward that request. And that path is running where? That path is you need to define as a backend service. And service again is nothing. These services I am talking about here, right? So that's what that once that is done, then you can access your application using this host, and you can define multiple hosts, right? There are scenario, right? Let's say you can deploy your Ingress resources for a single application where you have only one host and one path. Yes, there is no kind of hard code rule or something that you cannot do with one or you need to have multiple. No, there is a, let's say, single app only one host and multiple path, like we were talking about. Let's say the same scenario, right? If you have that app A, only the pod one is running, and you want to deploy it as an ingress controller, you can follow this, right? Or you have only one path. Now your app is your application or your website is popular, and you have multiple paths inside your domain, right? Then you need to define this. one host and multiple path, and for each path we have a dedicated service, and that service we need to define as a backend service, right? The third scenario is multiple app, right? MUL multiple app, where you have one host and one path for each app that you can define, right? You can define the host, you can put the application one, the path, backend service, then you need to define the host, number two, then the same path, backend service. Like that you can do, right? This is multiple app, right? And there is one more scenario I would say, which is nothing, which is something called you have that multiple app, only one host and multiple path, multi-path for each app, okay? There also we can define multiple path for each app. Under one host, you have that multiple rules for a different path, different backend, and different services. That's what the scenario we can have. Okay. Now, if I take you to my file, so here you can see. Here, what we are doing is we are creating some config file where just I am passing this index.html, about.html, and contact.html, and these HTML files I am mounting as a config map inside my NGINX container so that I can refer those as a kind of application, right? Web app application. So for that, what I have done is I have created this directory called Ingress controller one, and I have put this. So I just to look it more fancy, right? I have put this entire index.html inside these. So I have three. I will show you how it looks like. But the thing is, what we need to do is I need to follow this. Then I need to create these config map. We can create it as a manifest file, but since these files are having a long content, right? So that just to keep the file looks good, I am creating it as a from the command line, right? So that you can directly create it from the this directory. You can refer this directory kubectl create config map. This is just the name of the config, and from where I am creating from the file, and I am just pasting the directory path. So it will automatically detect, okay, there are three files under this, and it will create the config map for each file inside a single config map. Now here I am just mounting it. Okay, if this is the name of the config map, I am taking it as a web app volume, and in from the each web app volume, I am taking my this index.html, about.html, and contact.html. Then I am exposing this as a this NodePort, which is a web 1 service. Right? Now let's deploy this, and then we will discuss further. Okay, so this is my cluster where I have already pushed all these files, right? And the previous demo was also pushed, service DNS network demo, right? So this file I am talking about, let's quickly create this and we'll see create hyphen f, and if I just do this, it has created my pod and it has created my service. Now let's see what the service pod was, 31080. Okay. Apart from that, what I have done is I have created a local host entry inside my Windows box, right? That's what also you can do just to see how it looks, right? Because that we need. I'll explain you further, but let's quickly do one thing. This is my browser, and what I will do is I will go and I will paste this, and this was the URL for the node port, right? That's what we have understood. So let's see. Okay, it's not going through. Let me see what our pod says. Okay, pod is not yet created. That is why we are not able to reach to our service. Let's see what is happening to our pod. K describe pod and it is NodePort web app. Okay, it is saying uh, this was not found. Why? Obviously, because we were discussing that we need to create it manually, right? And we forgot to create. Now let's quickly create. See guys, that is the reason like you don't need to or don't panic anything, right? Just describe your port, just go for the logs and see the events, what exactly is happening, and you will come to know that okay, what is the issue. So in this scenario also, right, we forgot, completely forgot, and now you can see that it is saying the failed mount. Why? Because it is not finding this config box. So obviously it will not able to gonna mount it. So let me copy again and let's create it. Now it has created, and now if I see my pod, it is up and running probably. If not, then we need to delete it and we need to create it again. Okay, delete pod and it is node port hyphen web app. Okay, it is deleted. Now let's create it again. Okay, create hyphen f 5011. Okay, service was already there, so it haven't deleted. So let's see k get svc and k describe. Let's see if endpoint is connected to this service or not. It is connected, right? Now let's come to this and let's refresh this. You can see I have my home page up and running. So this was the index.html, right? Which we were referring from here, index.html. And all these pages of my application is running inside the one container. If I need to get the downtime or if I need to upgrade something, then what I need to do is I need to bring the entire pod down, and in that case what is happening is my all application are down, and that's what I don't want, right? Because here you can see that if I go to the this one about.html, if you see here, so it is saying about.html, and if you're gonna click on this about.html, that's what that I have embedded inside your index.html, and now you can see it has redirected me to about.html page. And there, if you have further, then you can just click like embedded that particular link inside your application. I don't have anything for on this page. Then you can simply click on that. Let's see if we have. Yes, we have. It is going to the contact.html, right? Or maybe you can directly go from here, watch our videos, and you can see that it is again coming to that contact.html. And if you have further, then just click on that and it will redirect to my what you call
Tech enthusiasts, it's time to
YouTube channel. Okay. Now, if it's up to you, right, how you want to design your application. I just want to show you that, okay, this is the way that you can do your single application without ingress, right? Now, I was talking about the issue was because here the every page, like every portion of my application is sitting inside one container. If something goes wrong with my one container, everything go away. If I need to update the about.html, again, I need to take my application down and I need to update it, right? Whereas if this portion if I would have running inside let's say multi-services thing, where what is the multi-services? Where you will run each portion, let's say about.html might be running in port 2, contact.html may be running on port 3, and from the home page you are just redirecting your services, right? Let's say this is my home page. And just imagine this about.html is running inside a second page, right? Inside a second pod, so that you will just redirect it to your second pod. right? If you need to take your about.html upgrade, then you just need to bring that pod 2 down, right? But since we have that learned this strategy also, right? So in that scenario also you don't need a downtime, but just to like explain, right? If that is the scenario, then you just need to bring that about.html page down. Further application your is running, right? You can access your contact.html, you can access your home page, right? Only when you come to the about.html, maybe you will see that okay, application is under progress or something, that page message page you can put, right? So that is the benefit of the microservices you can put. Now, but with the microservices, if we do, then again we have one challenge here, which we talk about, that you need to expose that each pod as its dedicated service on dedicated node port. And to manage these node port for a external DNS, it is very uh, hard thing, right? We cannot do thing. Maybe it is possible, but it is very kind of overhead on your admin, or maybe on you when you are managing this, right? And if you are hard coding again, maybe who knows that you might land to which problem. So in order to calm that, what we need to do is we will gonna deploy a Ingress controller, and Ingress controller will give you a one service on node port, and using this one node port and service, I will gonna access my application, and each application here will be exposed as a cluster IP, not the node port IP. All right. So now let's see, come to our documentation, and we'll see the second page. This is the page I was talking about, where we are just creating our ingress controller, right? This is the little bit I just modified, but you can see that we have the official ingress page as well, where you can see they are doing multiple things. You can directly download from here. What they are doing is the same thing. They are creating a NGINX namespace, then they are creating a service account, they are creating a two service account basically, then they are defining the role for the service account, and they have multiple roles as assigned. Then this is a second role they have defined, then they have defined the cluster role. There also we have multiple things, and again the second cluster role, and there now they are binding that service account to that particular role, because there were two roles, so obviously they need to do a two role binding, and probably the two cluster role binding, yes, one is this and one is here. Now they are creating a config map for further information if you have, and then they are creating a service which is coming as a node port. Yeah, that's what I was looking, node port, because that is the only service we need to access from external, right? Internally it will gonna redirect your everything towards your uh, different port. Okay, they have created another service called cluster IP, but that is for webhook, right? That is different, that is advanced thing we will not discuss today. And now they are deploying this Nginx, Ingress Nginx controller as a deployment, where they will gonna use a strategy called rolling update, so that they can keep your rolling revision history up to 10. You can see that, right? Then here they are just defining the template for the container. They are just passing some additional argument for their what you call that application. These are the environment variable I was talking about, the pod name and the pod namespace, because that's what Nginx service needs to know where exactly it is running, right? That's how that it works basically. And this is the image they are using, image policy. These are some props they have put. Okay, I will explain this in maybe next video, what is liveness and readiness prop and what is the use of those. Okay, now they are just defining some ports, okay, where exactly it is listening, how it is listening. Then they are just putting the request for the resources CPU, and these are some okay, certificate they are just mounting inside if you have that 443 also. And then they are just creating a job. But see, in this official image, right, I have pushed this as well. If you want to refer it, but it is something that they are doing many things. You need to create this ingress class, right? So that your resources will know, okay, which ingress class I need to connect. Then they're creating the webhook and all. But it is very long, right? But we will not do it. We will just do it the simple. Maybe it is not simple. We need to do many things here as well. We need to create a service account, but we'll not create a that much long here, right? Here you can see the role, cluster role binding. Almost it's more, almost it's same, but there are few things which is less from that particular official image here. Okay. Now you can see it has created. Now let's do one thing. Once we have this Ingress controller up and running, now we need to do what? We need to do a deploy a single app with Ingress. Here we were doing a without Ingress, and the problem was it was running as a dedicated node port. And that's what we don't want. We want each service to be running as a cluster IP, and we need to access this as a Ingress service node port IP. So this way, what you can do is first you need to deploy a application, right? So in this, I'm not doing anything. I'm just creating a dedicated index.html pages about contact.html page as a config. Then I'm creating this pod. Inside that, just to keep the simplicity, what I have done is I have again created these all these pages inside a single container, right? And then I am just exposing this as a cluster IP. That's it. I'm not doing anything. And this is the default page, one of the default page where I have a single index.html. This one, I will tell you what is the use of this default page. But in this file, we are not doing anything. We are just creating a pod and a service as a cluster IP. All right. And the config map is the respective to their container, and we are mounting towards. Now this is the file we need to understand. This is a main file, ingress resource, right? Don't expect when you deploy your NGINX controller and your application, now you will see, okay, I can access my application using the Ingress controller service. No, you need to define, so your NGINX class should know, okay, what I need to learn, right? Because your service so far doesn't know where it should forward that traffic to, right? So that's what we need to link now. Okay, so in order to do that, what we need to do is, okay, here you can see I am creating a default ingress, and this is the ingress for my application which we have deployed in this file, right? Let's forget this default ingress for a moment. Let's focus on this, and then I will explain you why we need a default backend ingress. Okay, let's come to this file. So here it is a kind of ingress. I'm just giving some name, and we are doing in default name. Here I'm just linking that Nginx class, because that's class we have created inside that Nginx controller deployment file, right? Manifest file. And here I'm just defining, okay, this resource file is belong to Nginx class, which is for the Nginx controller. Now I am defining a host called path for cloud.app. Again, this is something that should be resolvable. So what I have done is I have already created few entries in my local etc host for my Windows, so that I can easily access to this, right? Here I'm defining a path. Let's say this is a single host file, right? Can you see this host? We can put it as an array, but you can see that it is only having one host, but this host is having a multiple path. So the by default it will come to this, which is nothing, which is your index.html, and where it will forward your traffic as a backend to web2 service, and from that where this web2 service come from, this is coming from here. You can see that web2, it is cluster IP, right? That is the main thing which we were talking. Again, if your path is path for cloud.app slash about.html, then again it will forward to you web2 service, because that is also running there, right? That's what we have seen only. This is the 31 path, right? If I go to about.html, that is also serving on the same. If I go to contact.html, that is also getting served from the same. So that's what we need to do, the same thing for our what we need. for our this cluster IP for this one, right? So now that's what we were doing. But the problem is, let's say if your host is not having this path, then what will be the page it will gonna show you, right? That's where the default backend ingress is coming in the picture. Let's say your user is trying to do something which is exactly maybe a not what do you call it, that not available, right, as a subdomain of your particular domain, then you need to show some default page. Or maybe if you are doing something upgrade to your particular page and you want to redirect that particular path for a time being to this default, that's what also you can do. So for that, what I have done is I have created this default path here. You can see this one, default page, and this also I am serving as a this in same NGINX class in NGINX this ingress controller, right? And I'm defining this as a this one, right? Okay, so now do one thing. Let's come to our cluster and I'm gonna create this. Okay, create hyphen F manual ingress controller. I am first deploying it. You can see it has deployed multiple things. It has deployed these Nginx. It has deployed these role, like whatever we have discussed, almost it has done, but there are few errors. Let me see what is this. Okay, it is saying for cluster role, and because it is something that from showing from yesterday, because I was testing this application just to show you this as a demo. So probably it was already created and that's what it is saying already exist, right? So that doesn't matter. We are good. If you want to see, it has created this Nginx Ingress Nginx namespace, and there we have something called kget svc hyphen n. If you see, you have a dedicated service running on NodePort on these IP, right? So now we need to see all these, how we can do this, and how we can let's say this access all these stuff, and then we can try to do this. Okay. So we have deployed a Nginx controller. Now we need to deploy our first application and then we need to define a resource, right? So let me deploy a application first. K create hyphen F and I'm gonna deploy this as with Ingress. Here you can see what it has done is it has created a this web2 service as a cluster IP, right? Because earlier we were accessing on 31080 port. You can say it was accessible, but now we have deployed our application, but it is as a cluster IP, right? Then how we'll gonna access it? We will gonna access it via our Nginx controller. Now we need to deploy this Nginx resource so that it can access. Okay, so create Nginx ingress resources single host YAML. We need to deploy now. Okay, create hyphen F. If you get confused, right, so what I have done is I have just renamed all these files in a kind of sequence, right? First you need to do one, then you need to do two, three, four, five, six, right? And we are discussing it one by one, right? Now let's do this one thing. It has deployed now. If you see k get ing is nothing, ingress short form. So you can see what it has done is basically it has created a two ingress, and what those ingress is, there is one is pointing to a default backend and there is one is pointing to a this host which we define path for cloud.app, right? Now if we access this uh, path for cloud.app on this port 31126, it will gonna redirect to your resources to this application, and that's what I think we are define here, web 2 services, right? Now let's try. What was the port number is 31126. Okay, so this is the our host name, and if I paste here and I'll go 31126, now let's see, it is reaching, right? Because that's what that we are putting it as a main page. Hello, welcome to home page. I am exposed as a cluster IP, but you can access me via NGINX Ingress controller, and that's what we were doing, right? Here you can see this is as a cluster IP only. And how we were accessing it? We were accessing it via this IP. Sorry, this service IP, right? Now we have that multiple pages. We have that about.html as well. So about.html also getting served from the same URL on the same node port. Please check the official document for more info, right? And if I talk about for our contact.html, and you can see subscribe to our channel for more info and support. So here you can see it is getting served, right? It is getting served for all these pages which we are talking about. If you are going to about.html, we are reaching. If you're going to contact.html, that way also we are reaching, because that's what we are defining here, right? You can see about.html, contact.html. If I go subscribe to our channel, and it is giving to the same stuff, right? That's what that the second right uh, like kind of example where you have that single application. Maybe if you don't have that multiple page, then also that you can do the same thing. If you have a multiple path for your single application, then you can define this as an array, right? For the single host, you can have that multiple paths as an array. This is one path redirecting to the same service, or if it is on a different service, then you need to define that service. And that's what that coming as a third demo on this. So here what we are doing is, again we are creating some default HTML files. Now I'm creating a home pod, and I'm just accessing the first home page. Then I'm creating a about pod. There also I'm creating a default index.html for this. This is a contact port. What I'm trying to say is, like, now we are pretending our application as a microservices, and all these different parts of our application is running in a different port, right? Because it is simple app, we don't have that redirection as of now, but just to show you, right? Like if you want, you can put the redirection like we have done here. Here we are referring to the same thing, right? But what you can do is, let me show you, under this index.html, right? I am just referring to this. So instead of this, you can give that service, whatever that where you are deploying this, so that automatically it will get binded to or redirected to that particular service where you are referring. But since we don't have that like such configuration, so I'm just giving you a simple example where we are just trying to do it as a different uh, part of your application in a different pod. Then I'm just creating a service for each pod, and I'm just exposing it. Whereas in the last file, what I'm doing is I am just giving a different host. This is a example of this 4, 3 and 4. Why? Because you can see that you have that single multiple app where you have that, okay, single path for defined. But for the third one, you can see that I have this host defined, and it has two path defined, right? So that's what also you can do. And you can see each host have their dedicated service. It is home service, it is about service, and it is contact service. And under the contact service, you can see we have two paths. There is one more info.html, and that is also getting served from the same service. All right. Now let's quickly deploy it, and we'll see how it works. So I would say k create -f, and I'm just gonna deploy first 51.5. Okay, it has created our resources. Now let's quickly create our Ingress resources for this application. It's done now. Now if I say k get ing, now you can see that with this multiple app ingress, I am hosting a three different hosts and they are on different services. Now let's quickly try home path for cloud dot home, and it is on the same 31126, right? That's the beauty of this ingress controller. You don't need to change this uh, node port, right? Now you can see, hello, welcome to microservices demo with multi-host ingress rule home page, right? Now instead of home, let's say if I'm going to about, you can see I am about info page and running in different port with different services cluster IP, right? Now the third one was contact, right? And this is the I am the contact info page running in different port. But with this, if you remember, we have discussed we have one more path is info.html, and let's see, subscribe to path for cloud for more apps, and we do learn with fun, and that's what we are doing, right? We are learning with fun. We are deploying all these things and we are learning what all use case scenario could be, right? So I have tried my best to explain what is the ingress controller, how you can deploy it, right? Because it is already a pre-built image, you just need to deploy it. Only the thing which what you need to take care is you need to take care of these resources file, and you need to link that particular resource file to a same class name which you have defined inside your ingress controller, right? And it's up to you. There are multiple use case. Maybe you want to put some kind of rewrite for your path. Maybe you want to use some kind of regress of your multiple path, right? Because this, just to start, I put it as simple. For that we have the documentation. As I always mention, refer the documentation for more info like how it is doing, right? Now let me show you one more thing. If I'm gonna describe it, okay, describe ing multiple this one. So here you can see what it is saying is, for this there is no default backend. So I'm not sure where I need to go. But if you coming to path for cloud dot home and if you follow the default path, you will land to this. If you come to path for cloud dot about, you will land to the default path which is serving on this service. And if you come to the dot contact, then you have two path. One is getting served on this. Obviously, matlab, both service we are getting both path on the same service, but you have a two different. Whereas if I'm gonna describe this web ingress, right? So here you can see uh, okay, it is not coming. Maybe it should come basically. But what it is saying is, maybe I'll tell you how we can. I think I removed that entry. That is why it is not coming. But we need to define this default entry. Let me show you where you can define. We were creating this, right? Mm, Ingress resources, right? So under rules, you just need to put this under rule. If you put this before rule, not under rule, we need to define a this one default backend. Now this backend is already serving, right? If we don't have any of the host, like we don't have this path for cloud.app, we don't have home, we don't have about, we don't have contact, then where it should land, right? Let's try. Let's say if I'm just saying a new page here, path for cloud dot new. Obviously for this no. So here you can see I have defined this page, right? This page is not defined yet. We are working on it. Please come back. That is the benefit of this default backend, right? And if you are doing some kind of maintenance or if you are doing some kind of upgradation, there also it will come handy and it will give you a valid information to your user, okay, what you are doing. Or if you have any planned maintenance coming, right? That also you can put it somewhere, right? That is something that comes under the development part of your application. We are talking only that how you can host your application on Kubernetes and you want to get the leverage of your Ingress controller. That's way that you can do it, right? So that was all about the Ingress controller, and these all files already has been pushed towards our repository. You can clone and you can follow along and you can also try to do this, right? Because that's what the motto of our page, right? If I again go, I'll show you the motto info.html. We do learn with fun, right? So try to do all these things and we will get it done handy, because if you just listen and you don't implement, right, then I don't think that it will be a good thing. We will not able to understand. But I strongly recommend clone my repo, deploy your own cluster and try to do all these things and you will feel good, right? So yeah, I think that was all about the Ingress controller, what you can do. Maybe in some other video, I will show you if you have that HTTPS connection towards your application, then how you can handle that HTTPS connection and how we can offload that SSL overload on the layer 7 so that our application will not have to deal with that, right? But that is something in the some other video I will talk about. Okay. And in the next video, we will gonna discuss the probes, liveness probe and readiness probe, and what all these things and why we need that all is coming in the next video. All right, guys. So yeah, I will take a leave for today. And if you like this content, if you find good enough, like what is the Ingress controller, and now if you understood, obviously you understood, right? So I would recommend just go and hit that like and subscribe button for my channel, and I will meet you in the next video. Thank you. Bye bye.